In the halls of divine comedy, where laughter echoed through corridors of starlight and mirth hung like gossamer curtains, Susanoo, the Trickster God, reigned supreme. His eyes, twin pools of mischief, sparkled with an otherworldly gleam as he surveyed his dominion. The very air seemed to quiver with anticipation, as if the universe itself held its breath, waiting for Susanoo's next jest. Eons of divine pranks and cosmic japes had earned him a reputation that preceded him through every realm, mortal and immortal alike. Susanoo's latest scheme had been brewing for millennia, a joke so grandiose, so all-encompassing, that it would shake the very foundations of reality. He had confided in only two other deities: Iris, the goddess of rainbows, whose prismatic presence added a touch of whimsy to even the darkest of Susanoo's plots, and Dionysus, the god of wine and revelry, whose influence ensured that no celebration in the halls ever ran dry. Together, this trio of immortals formed an unlikely alliance, bound by the promise of the ultimate cosmic punchline. As Susanoo paced the ever-shifting floors of his celestial comedy club, his mind raced with possibilities. The halls themselves seemed to respond to his frenetic energy, walls rippling like water and ceilings arching impossibly high only to swoop low again in dizzying waves. Portraits of past practical jokes adorned the walls, each one a masterpiece of divine mischief. There was the time he had reversed gravity in the mortal realm for a day, and the infamous incident when he had made all the gods speak in limericks for a century. But these past triumphs paled in comparison to what Susanoo had planned now. This joke, he mused, would be his magnum opus, a prank so perfect it would echo through eternity. Little did he know that the threads of fate were already beginning to tangle, weaving a tapestry of consequences that even a god might find difficult to unravel. The air crackled with potential energy, as if the very fabric of the cosmos sensed the impending upheaval. As the appointed hour drew near, Susanoo summoned Iris and Dionysus to his inner sanctum. The time had come to set in motion the greatest jest ever conceived in the history of existence. With a flourish of his hand, Susanoo conjured a shimmering orb that pulsed with chaotic energy. "My friends," he declared, his voice resonating with power and barely contained glee, "prepare yourselves. For tonight, we shall make the universe itself our audience, and existence our stage." Little did they know that this performance would have consequences far beyond anything they could imagine, setting into motion a chain of events that would challenge the very nature of divinity itself. As Susanoo's grand joke began to unfold, the very fabric of reality seemed to quiver with anticipation. The Trickster God's laughter, a sound that could shatter mountains and calm seas, echoed through the halls of divine comedy. With each passing moment, the chaos grew more palpable. Colours began to bleed into one another, creating swirling vortexes of chromatic madness that even Iris struggled to control. The rainbow goddess found herself constantly shifting hues, her usual prismatic grace giving way to a frenzied kaleidoscope of colours. Dionysus, ever the merrymaker, found his divine wine transforming with each sip. One moment it was a robust ambrosia that could intoxicate even the most stoic of gods. The next, a sobering elixir that brought crystal clarity to the mind. The god of revelry laughed uproariously at each transformation, his very essence seeming to ripple with the unpredictable nature of Susanoo's jest. Yet beneath the surface of his mirth, a flicker of concern began to grow. The joke was taking on a life of its own, expanding beyond even the Trickster God's vast imagination. As the prank spread beyond the halls of divine comedy, its effects began to ripple through other divine realms. Gods of order found their domains descending into delightful anarchy, while chaos deities suddenly faced the hilarious prospect of perfect symmetry. In the mortal world, the consequences were even more pronounced. Gravity became a suggestion rather than a law. Time flowed backwards and forwards at whim, and the very concepts of up and down became interchangeable. Humans found themselves simultaneously terrified and exhilarated, their world transformed into a playground of impossibilities. Susanoo watched it all unfold with growing excitement, his eyes gleaming with a manic light. Each new development, each unexpected twist only fueled his enthusiasm. He danced through the halls, his form shifting and changing with each step, sometimes appearing as a mischievous child, other times as an ancient sage, but always with that spark of chaotic joy in his eyes. "Look," he cried to Iris and Dionysus, "see how the universe dances to our tune. This is comedy on a cosmic scale." But as the joke continued to grow and evolve, taking on aspects that even Susanoo hadn't anticipated, a subtle shift began to occur. The laughter that filled the halls took on a different quality, no longer simply joyous, but tinged with something else, a note of uncertainty, perhaps even fear. Iris and Dionysus exchanged worried glances, their earlier enthusiasm tempered by the realization that they might have set in motion something beyond their control. And in the heart of the maelstrom, Susanoo continued to laugh, unaware that the punchline of his greatest joke might come at a cost he never expected to pay. The crescendo of Susanoo's cosmic jest reached fever pitch as reality itself began to buckle under the weight of the divine prank. The halls of divine comedy, once a bastion of celestial mirth, now resembled a madhouse of paradoxes and impossibilities. Walls became floors, ceilings transformed into bottomless voids, and the very air vibrated with uncontrollable laughter that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Susanoo stood at the epicenter of this chaotic maelstrom, his form flickering between 1,000 shapes a second, each one more absurd than the last. Iris, her rainbow essence stretched to its limits, found herself unable to maintain any semblance of coherent form. She became a living prism, refracting the light of 1,000,000 impossible colors across the twisted landscape of the halls. Her voice, when she managed to speak, came out as a cascade of musical notes that formed words only when they echoed off the shape-shifting walls. "Susanoo!" she called out, her words a symphony of concern. "This has gone too far. We must put an end to it before—" But her warning was cut short as a new wave of chaos washed over them. Dionysus, who had been riding the tide of the joke with wild abandon, suddenly found his powers of revelry turning against him. The divine wine that flowed endlessly from his cup began to flood the halls, but this was no ordinary drink. Each drop contained a universe of its own, tiny realities that expanded upon contact with the floor, creating pockets of existence where new gods and new jokes were born and died in the span of heartbeats. Susanoo's laughter reached a manic pitch as he witnessed the unraveling of reality around him. "Don't you see?" he cried out to his companions, his voice echoing with the power of 1,000 cosmic punchlines. "This is the ultimate joke. We're rewriting the very rules of existence." But even as the words left his mouth, a flicker of doubt crossed his ever-changing features. The joke had taken on a life of its own, growing beyond even his godly control. The laughter that had once been a song of pure joy now carried notes of desperation and fear. In that moment of realization, the true climax of Susanoo's jest revealed itself. The boundaries between the divine and the mortal, the real and the imagined, the joker and the joke, began to blur. Gods from every pantheon were drawn into the halls, their powers and domains jumbled and reassigned at random. Mortals found themselves wielding divine powers, while ancient deities grappled with the limitations of human form. And at the heart of it all, Susanoo felt his own divine essence beginning to fragment, scattered across the infinite realities he had inadvertently created. The Trickster God's eyes widened in shock as he understood the true punchline of his greatest joke, and realized that he himself was the punchline. As the realization of his predicament sank in, Susanoo's laughter finally died away, replaced by a stunned silence that seemed to echo louder than any divine mirth. The halls of divine comedy, still churning with the aftermath of the cosmic jest, began to stabilize, though nothing would ever be quite the same again. Iris, her prismatic form slowly coalescing back into a more recognizable shape, approached the Trickster God cautiously. Her voice, still tinged with the music of 1,000 rainbows, was soft with concern. "Susanoo," she whispered, "what have you done to yourself?" Dionysus, sobered by the turn of events, waved his hand to dispel the multiverse in a wine cup that threatened to drown them all. He stood unsteadily, his usually ruddy face pale with the weight of comprehension. "By all the grapes in creation," he muttered, "I've never seen a joke backfire quite like this." The god of Revelry looked around at the transformed halls, noting how the very fabric of divine reality seemed to have been irreversibly altered. Everywhere he looked, he saw fragments of Susanoo, a laugh here, a mischievous glint there, woven into the tapestry of existence. The trickster god himself seemed diminished, his once larger-than-life presence now fragmented across countless realities. Susanoo struggled to hold himself together, both literally and figuratively. With each passing moment, he felt his essence slipping further away, becoming one with the joke he had created. "I don't understand," he said, his voice a mere echo of its former booming glory. "It was supposed to be the ultimate jest, the prank to end all pranks. How did it come to this?" As he spoke, his form flickered and wavered, as if threatening to dissolve into the chaotic ether at any moment. Iris and Dionysus exchanged glances, a silent communication born of shared divinity and the harrowing experience they had just endured. It fell to Iris to voice what they were both thinking. "Perhaps," she said gently, her words shimmering with iridescent wisdom. "This is the nature of the ultimate joke, to become so grand, so all-encompassing, that it consumes even its creator." Dionysus nodded sagely, adding, "The line between the jester and the jest has always been a fine one, my friend. It seems you finally crossed it." As the full implications of his actions settled over him, Susanoo felt a strange mix of emotions. Fear, certainly, but also a grudging appreciation for the sheer magnitude of what he had accomplished. Even as he felt himself fragmenting further, spreading thin across the multiverse he had inadvertently created, a small smile played across his fading lips. "Well," he mused, his voice growing fainter with each word, "I suppose there are worse ways for a trickster god to go out than to become one with the greatest joke ever told." With that, Susanoo's form began to dissipate more rapidly, his essence merging with the very fabric of the divine comedy he had woven. Iris and Dionysus watched in awe and sadness as their friend became a part of something greater than himself, a living punchline echoing through eternity. In the wake of Susanoo's dissipation, an eerie calm settled over the halls of divine comedy. The once chaotic space now pulsed with a new kind of energy, quieter, yet somehow more profound. Iris and Dionysus stood in silent vigil, witnessing the birth of a new cosmic order. As the last visible fragments of Susanoo merged with the fabric of reality, something unexpected began to occur. The joke, it seemed, had one final twist to reveal. Whispers of laughter, eerily familiar, began to echo through the halls, growing stronger with each passing moment. Iris was the first to notice the change. Her rainbow essence vibrated in response to a presence that felt both new and achingly familiar. "Do you feel that?" she asked Dionysus, her voice a melody of uncertainty and hope. The god of Revelry nodded slowly, his eyes wide with dawning comprehension. "It can't be," he murmured. "And yet—" As they watched, the very air around them began to shimmer and coalesce, taking on a form that was at once Susanoo and something far greater. The trickster god's joke, in its ultimate cosmic irony, had indeed backfired, but not in the way anyone could have anticipated. Susanoo found himself trapped, not in a prison of his own making, but woven into the very essence of divine comedy itself. He had become the joke, the jester, and the audience all at once. His consciousness, fragmented yet unified, now permeated every corner of existence where laughter dwelled. Every chuckle, every prank, Every moment of joy or mischief now carried a spark of Susanoo's essence. As this new reality settled into place, Iris and Dionysus felt their divine powers shift and change in response. They found themselves attuned to this new cosmic laugh track, their own domains enhanced and expanded by the omnipresent sense of divine humour. Iris discovered she could now paint not just with colours, but with joy itself, her rainbows carrying the power to spark laughter in even the gloomiest of hearts. Dionysus found his wine now flowed with the heady brew of ultimate mirth, capable of inducing not just intoxication, but a state of pure, unadulterated amusement. And Susanoo? His voice, now the voice of every joke ever told or yet to be conceived, rang out through the halls of divine comedy. "My friends," he said, his words resonating with the power of 1,000,000,000 punchlines. "It seems I've finally found my true calling." There was no bitterness in his tone, only a sense of wonder and acceptance. "I am everywhere and everywhen that laughter exists. Every jest, every prank, every moment of joy, I am there. I have become the ultimate joke and the ultimate joker." As his words faded, a wave of pure mirth swept through the cosmos, touching gods and mortals alike. And in that moment, all of creation shared in the laughter of a trickster god who had at last become one with his art.